It is getting harder and harder to turn paid traffic into qualified leads or tangible business revenue. The biggest issue is there's so much noise out there now, and most companies are competing in a red ocean full of shark-infested waters where they have very little chance to actually stand out from the competition, which is why a lot of businesses are seeing their cost per acquisition rising, because there's so many competitors on the platform. People just aren't taking as much notice as they used to. However, there are a few core principles that, if you follow consistently, will significantly reduce your overall cost per acquisition over time and allow you to create a blue ocean where your potential customers and buyers aren't even thinking about your competitors.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention now.
I'm going to show you this with a visual diagram so you can fully understand the components of this and what you can start doing in your business to start drastically reducing your cost per acquisition, and also helping you to get in front of your potential customers before your competitors do. Let's dive into my laptop now and I'll walk you through this. Okay, so firstly, the issue that most businesses have when it comes to advertising online, whether you're advertising on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Google search, or any other platform out there, is going straight after conversions too quickly and too early on in the process. Let me explain what I mean. So for most businesses, they're going straight after these conversions campaigns where they're trying to get conversions out the gate, running the first set of ads and trying to drive leads or sales for the business. The issue with this is all of your competitors are doing exactly the same thing. And what you end up with is people who have never heard of your business, cold traffic, who have never heard of you before. They're then surrounded and inundated by, tens, potentially even hundreds of different messages from different businesses, mostly all saying the same thing, right? And it becomes incredibly difficult for someone to even make a decision. So most people just won't act. And that's why, as more and more competitors, start getting access to these platforms, they're just becoming more and more saturated. Instead of doing this, what you want to try and do is think about how can we create content and build this into our advertising campaigns that speak to the customers who aren't even at this stage where they're looking to buy right now. Okay, so what we would do here is effectively create a demand generation or kind of top of funnel campaign where we're just speaking into potential problems that our audience is struggling with right now, some fears they have, some concerns they have. This is going to look different depending on the audience you're targeting. This example here, we're targeting heads of HR directors for some employee well-being software. So we're speaking into things like employee recognition and some of the common mistakes people make. What's the future of employee well-being look like? So this is all content that if I'm a head of HR, I would naturally choose to consume this content. And this is the key here. When you're running ads, most of the time they feel like ads. And the simple fact is nobody wants to watch an ad. What we do want to do is consume content that is actually going to help us in our job, in our day-to-day life, whether you're selling B2B, whatever role you're serving, think about what's going to help that person to hit their KPIs, what's going to help them to hit their goals they have. If you're working with people more D2C, think about what is it your product or service, whatever you're offering, what is that actually offering? Let's say, for example, you're in the D2C space and you're selling, a great example of this is a toilet roll company called Who Gives a Crap, right? They have a very, very clever advertising campaign where basically all of their toilet rolls are kind of eco-friendly, sustainable. It's made from bamboo. That's the whole messaging behind it. So their top of funnel content, they're trying to call out people who care about the environment. So they're just educating people saying, hey, did you know that toilet roll is responsible for X amount of trees being, chopped down every single year? So they're educating people who are the problem. They're not even mentioning the product at this stage. I think it does mention it at the end, but the key here is just to educate the audience. What they then do at the middle of funnel is they then start transitioning into, hey, here's our product. Here's our, our offering, what it does. Come and check it out. So they're kind of now getting people aware of the actual product or the service, the solution you provide. And then at the bottom of funnel, which is where most companies start, they're then showing case studies. They're showing like reels and user generated content from people receiving their delivery, and all these testimonials and reviews they've had. And that's often the thing that will then nudge that person over the line. If they haven't bought here, it will then be on these ads to kind of nudge that person over the line to actually go on to making a buying decision. The amount of content you'll have to use here, you'll obviously want to also factor in the average buying cycle. So if you're in B2B, you've got a fairly long buying cycle. You'll probably need to nurture people with a lot more content before you generate that lead. If it's a e-commerce like toilet roll, for example, where it's a relatively low value item, but it does take some educating, you probably won't need as much content, or you don't need to look at this over as long as a horizon. So it's really just about setting your expectations in terms of, if you're selling enterprise level SaaS, for example, and you've got a £500,000 contract value for a client, naturally you can assume that it's going to take longer for those leads to come in, as opposed to if you're selling toilet roll, fashion, whatever it might be. So you just have to kind of think realistically, you're not going to get the same kind of time lengths or even cost per leads when it comes down to it. But the key here really is when you get in at this early stage, you are the logical choice here. So even if people are seeing your competitors at this stage, they're not paying attention to them because they already know, like, and trust you. You've educated them on the problem. They've seen content from the brand. So you built up that trust and credibility. So when it gets to this stage where they're now seeing testimonials, that's all they need. When they're seeing your competitors, they kind of become irrelevant at that stage. Okay. Whereas what most businesses are doing, they're leaving this off. So you're waiting for someone to find out themselves about the problem that they have. And then they're just left in this, again, sea of sharks where they just have to, go with whichever one they see the most. And normally what happens here is your competitors with the biggest budgets will end up winning 9 times out of 10 because they can show the ads more often. They've got more creative budgets. They can probably create better ads. So they're just going to eat you alive every single time. Whereas if you take this approach, you can get to them before your competitors even have a chance to. You've already built up all that trust, all that credibility, all that goodwill up here. So when it comes to it, people are in a stage where they're ready to buy, they trust you. It's going to be much easier to get them to convert. So this is really a kind of framework that you can follow time and time again when you're running your ad campaigns. The key here, though, is you have to look at this as a long-term strategy. You can't go in and say, we're going to set up an ad campaign and start generating leads straight away. It may take several months to even get to this stage. You'll see here with the approximate budget allocation, this isn't, 100% exact. It's going to fluctuate every time. This is just rough guidelines. So you'd always want to have the majority of your budget at the top of funnel, because this is where you're bringing people into your world. You're bringing that awareness. You're educating people. You're then ideally retargeting the most engaged views. So if you were doing a video, you could retarget video views of people who have watched, 50% or more. So they resonated with that particular topic. So you've now kind of filtered this down. So there's less qualified people at this stage. So you'll only need a smaller portion of the budget. And then when we get down to the final stage where we're doing like website retargeting and people who have engaged in our middle of funnel ads as well, that budget's then even smaller because we've got an even smaller amount of people. So the idea is we want to kind of be filling, if you imagine an actual funnel, we want to be filling it from the top and then filtering down from there. So this is really the overall system that you want to use, but it just takes changing your mindset in terms of not expecting to get conversions straight away. Now, that's not to say if you do currently have a Google search campaign running, you're getting leads from it, maybe it's your main acquisition channel for the business, you don't just want to turn that off, because you need to have an acquisition channel that is currently bringing you in revenue and profits for the business. So once you've got that, what you want to be doing is reinvesting the profits you're getting from that into a more full funnel campaign like this one, because this is what's going to set you up for the long term to really start educating the wider market and bringing in the long term, reducing your overall cost per acquisition, because you're no longer competing and fighting for scraps, but you've actually got a huge pool of buyers now that you are educating. The thing is, in any industry, you don't get to choose when people are going to come in or out of any given market. There are so many factors that could decide when somebody is actually going to be ready to buy. But what we can do is make sure that we are the people who are at least educating them here. So when they are ready, we're the first people they think of. So sometimes it might take, again, depending on your industry, depending on the average buying cycle or the value of the product you're selling, you might be able to get a funnel like this running profitably within a couple of months. Sometimes you might not see that come to fruition for about a year. If you're selling enterprise SaaS where you've got those, hundreds of thousands to millions of pounds contract value, it's going to be a fairly long buying cycle, and you're not necessarily going to see the tangible revenue coming from it until much later down the line. So it's important you're looking at it from this perspective in terms of, whether you're running Google search campaigns, whether you're running Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it is, you really need to be looking at it through this lens of educating, building that trust and credibility, and then just really kind of, delivering the social proof and proving to people that you can help them with the outcome that they desire, whether it be feeling better about themselves, the confidence that your clothing is going to give them, or the results that your software is going to give them, or the service is going to give them. You just want to be thinking of it from this kind of logical storytelling perspective. Ultimately, you want to make your advertising campaigns a natural extension of the customer journey. When ads start to feel like ads, that's when they stop working. And that's what most advertising is doing. And that's why most businesses are seeing their cost per acquisition rise. If you can go in with the approach of creating content that people want to consume, so they are coming to that decision themselves, they want to buy. This is really the key thing to remember here with any advertising campaign. Nobody wants to be sold to, but people do want to buy. They want to solve their problems. They want to get to the desired outcome they have. They just don't want to feel like they're being sold to. So if you can create ads in your ad funnels in a way where it feels like people are able to self-educate, consume content they want to consume, so they're naturally coming to the conclusion that you are the right business for them, it's going to be very, very easy for you to then convert that interest into a lead and finally a paying customer. However, with all that said, it's all well and good having an amazing structure in your ads, but if your website isn't set up in a way to replicate that customer journey and make it very, very easy and almost a no-brainer for people to buy from you, you're always going to struggle to convert your paid media traffic into revenue. So in the next video coming up after this one, I'm going to be showing you how to make sure that your website is designed to convert visitors into leads and sales. So be sure to stick around for that one, and I'll see you there.